barrier is still in construction, but we're going to be seeing it for the next couple of kilometers. 1 second. You can already see the tip of Bethlehem ahead of you, and soon you'll be able to see it much easier on your left. But the wall surrounding Bethlehem right now, which you can see, that's a separation barrier. Where that antenna is the main entrance to Bethlehem today. It's called the Tantur checkpoint. And this wall will be escorting us for the next couple of kilometers. Sometimes it moves to the right side of the road, sometimes it moves back to the left side of the road. We don't have to get into that, but it is important already, just so you get the idea of where we are, that the wall is on your left, but that doesn't mean that the territories end on that wall. The territories are also on your right, so the zone on your right, we call it the seam zone, or Merchav HaTefel. It's basically the land which is stuck between, which is part of the territories, but stuck between the green line and the separation barrier, which is sometimes a wall, sometimes a fence. This is part of which is a fence, but mostly we're going to be seeing wall. This is the first tunnel of Tunnels Road. We're going to be driving over a bridge shortly. Under this bridge, there's actually a gate which leads to Bethlehem, which you can't cross. Unless there's a permit, and then we'll be driving through the second tunnel shortly. Beit Jala, if you asked, is a neighborhood right above us on your left. So some of you might remember Beit Jala from the early Intifada, where there was Palestinians were shooting from Beit Jala to Gilo. That happened in the first couple of years of the second Intifada. Beit Jala, part of it is A and part of it is B, if I remember correctly. But either way. What I meant about three-dimensional is that exactly, that the Israelis who are here on the bus are not allowed legally, by Israeli law. When I say legally, it's by Israeli law, to be in Beit Jala, or at least it's part of Beit Jala. So we're not allowed to be directly above where we are now. Palestinians aren't allowed to be on this road. There's a checkpoint down the road. You'll see where from that point on to the south, Palestinians can be on the road, and that's the type of system which I talked about, which is becoming more relevant, and it's it's actually a bit the roads are only one type of separate grid which is being built now, because there's also a separate electrical grid, separate water grid, and so on, and all of this is happening within this territory that we are in now. In around 200-300 meters, we'll be going through one of the only checkpoints you'll be seeing today, and definitely one of the only checkpoints you'll be seeing outside of Hebron. Checkpoints is a word you hear a lot about in the news, and most people think, a lot of people think, definitely from where I come, that checkpoints are mainly on the green lines, separating between the territories and Israel. Obviously, here that's not the case, because we're already inside the territories for the last couple of kilometers. But also the checkpoint that you'll be seeing now is, if you're used to seeing checkpoints from a couple of years ago, this is a checkpoint which is very different. Looks much more permanent. It's called a terminal checkpoint. It looks very much like a border crossing. 1 second. The checkpoint on your left is the purpose of it is mainly to weed out Palestinians, so they won't be able to drive north into Jerusalem. Today it's semi-privatized, so the people who are guarding the checkpoints it's actually a private security company. They're being controlled by the military police, but the people who are checking the cars are the military. On your left is a continuation of the separation barrier, so behind that is Bethlehem, and that's going to be the case for the next couple of kilometers. On your right is what I was talking about in terms of the seam zone. You see that there's a tip of a village, a Palestinian village on the hill on your right. They're stuck in the seam zone, and the city center is Bethlehem. So what Israel is doing now is constructing for them a tunnel, which we're driving over in around 50 meters. You can see it's actually being dug now. So there'll be a tunnel from these villages to the city, manned by an Israeli checkpoint, but that way this part of the road will also be for Israelis only, and this road, which we're driving over now, will be for Palestinians. So this is everything I'm talking about is really happening as we speak. Same goes for the agricultural land. So on your right is agricultural land which belongs to people living on your left. So what Israel is doing now, or it has done, is we've constructed, they're called agricultural gates. We'll be driving by one in very, very shortly with the pillbox next to it. The agricultural gates are open twice a day for half an hour to allow Palestinians with permits who can prove that they own this land and that they have a right to work it, to cross the street twice a day, in the morning to work and the evening back from it. We can talk about the permit obtaining process all day because it becomes very a very complicated issue to actually obtain these permits, and the easiest example is always that the place where you obtain these permits is on the other side of the and also, even to get a permit, you need a permit. There are permits, there are different types of permits for different types of crops. So if you have an olive field, it would be 27 days. If you have a vineyard, it would be 29 days. All sorts of things like that. We're not going to talk about that, but that's a lot of the issues which we're dealing with now. And you'll see this is semi-theoretic at this point, at least for Bethlehem, because we're not done yet with the wall. So at least at this point, so it's not still the case. Once we exit Bethlehem, so right away we're already in the Gush Etzion settlement block, which starts where you see those caravans up on the hill right ahead of us, and that's what in Israel we call either an illegal outpost or an unauthorized outpost, depending on who you are. But they're illegal and unauthorized by Israeli law, and there are around, I think, 105 of those. If they're illegal, so why doesn't the question was if they were illegal, why doesn't the police remove them? Various, I mentioned political reasons. It's not only that they exist; they're hooked up to electricity and to water, and they have roads being paved to them. So.